Now, on Enough Said, with K-Fans Dan Barrero.
How much do the Vikings have to pay him? They've paid him, what is it? How many?
It's like 100
million?
It's pretty close.
And Justin Guard.
Everybody, people on the Vikings side of this whole thing are telling everybody to relax.
Calm down.
Enough Said.
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrero, back from vacation. Guardsy back in his chair. And Ryan Ravlin is in today for Lori Fisher. Ryan, welcome back.
Hey, and welcome back, Dan.
Thank you.
Let's get started. Michelle Kelm-Helgen has already resigned as chair of the body that oversees U.S. Bank Stadium. But the scandals continue. The Star Tribune reporting Kelm-Helgen helped friends and family members buy seats before longtime season ticket holders had a chance. And Friday, the paper also reported she waived more than $55,000 in rent for event spaces without consulting other board members. Dan, is this ever going to end?
I thought it was, and in fact,
Not if Rochelle Olsen can help it.
The story I missed,
Yeah.
I almost was ready to start feeling a little sorry for her. I'll ask you this question.
We've run out of steam a little bit.
At this juncture, who has been put through the meat grinder worse, Michelle Kelm-Helgen or the yellow-bellied sapsuckers at the People's Stadium? I think it might be Michelle Kelm-Helgen, but she's earned most of it. And as we've said before, in the grand scheme of scandal, this is nickel and dime stuff.
Yeah.
But symbolically, it's still it looks bad, and it looks like you're at your basic case of a political hack, a political appointee taking full advantage of the privilege of that deal, of getting a little bit here and a little bit there. Not enough. I don't think anybody thinks there should be handcuffs put on Michelle Kelm-Helgen.
No.
Right?
Probably
I
not.
don't.
No.
But there's enough of this. I'm actually more bothered by the latest story
For sure.
than I am the second story.
The middle
which
story
had
is
to do about
meaningless to
her
me.
moving to the front of the line.
I'm starting to think she was abusing her power. Do you think I'm jumping the gun?
Don't equivocate.
I'm starting to think just a little bit that they may, on the board, have been abusing their power. But the second story about having her friends and family, they bought those tickets. It wasn't like they got a bunch of freebies.
But they also got privilege.
They did.
They moved up in the line.
I understand that, but that one didn't bug me as much. This one does bother me because so many different people get soaked to be in the People's Stadium. And there were some, I think, that they had to let in for free because
legally,
that was part of the deal.
A couple of high school events.
Yep.
It's supposed to be the People's Stadium.
It is. That's
including
what they
for the
told
high
us.
school events.
But it's what the people I feel bad for in this scenario are other fat cats around the country now. Because between like this one locally and the IOC, remember we had that scandal in Rio most recently where they woke up people at like 5 in the morning and arrested them for selling tickets and all this stuff. The fat cats are ruining it for the other fat cats by abusing power. And I'm sure all around the country, people are going and saying, are we buttoned up on all this stuff? Because they're going to start cracking down on all of us now.
And this is really part of why people get cynical about the process. And
I can't blame them.
These shouldn't be political positions in the first place.
That's true.
And again, can you get people from the business world who are you'd be just as capable of abusing the opportunity? Absolutely. But I think whenever you go political, and that's what this was, these are a bunch of political appointees, then folks are going to assume the worst, and you've asked them to assume the worst about the way you've gone about your business.
Okay,
and in her case,
let's leave it there.
It's also about run it by your other members of the board. Now, maybe they'd all would have been in on it anyway, but basically she just said, I've got some discretion.
At least pretend.
I work hard. Ted and I work hard in these jobs, so we got our discretion.
All right, we got to move on. NFL free agency is underway. The Vikings have some holes to fill. One of the positions could be running back, assuming Adrian Peterson does not come back. Guys, do the Vikings just need to move on and work on life without Adrian? Justin?
They probably do.
You want him back, don't you?
Well, I think the way it's trending, were you
We can get him for like $1 million a year.
That's the thing. Were you surprised in the first, 24 to 36 to 48 hours? We didn't really hear much on the Adrian Peterson front, did we? Which I think leads me to believe what a lot of us believed along this way, that there wasn't going to be a bunch of people lining up at his door on day one to say, oh, the Vikings aren't going to pay you 18, we'll pay you 10. I think we've always known that the money was going to be drastically lower than he thought it should be. And maybe that's why we haven't heard much from him. But no, I'm not.
I want him out.
You want him done for sure?
And I know I'm blaming him for something his dad tweeted, and his dad can be kind of a loose cannon.
And he doesn't always speak for Adrian.
He doesn't,
sometimes he does.
But we've learned before this notion. How long do we have to hold Adrian's hand and tell him how important he is to us? How much do the Vikings have to pay him? They've paid him, what is it? How many?
It's like 100 million. It's pretty close.
Honest to God, I'm so sick of that because that's what his dad suggested. Well, they haven't even come up with an offer yet.
Right.
Well, this is business 101, boys and girls. This is the way it works in the real world. and Adrian felt unloved when the team didn't stand tall enough for him after he abused his kid.
Even though they did stand tall for him.
And they did. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm ready to. It's another reason for me, but I'm tired of trying to hold Adrian's hand and make him help him in his self-esteem. He's got too much self-esteem as it is.
The other issue with the Vikings, though, is who would block for him even if he was here, and that's
We got Riley Reed
Reef
from the Detroit Lions,
and
offensive line.
Everybody, people on the Vikings side of this whole thing are telling everybody to relax.
Calm down.
That free agency just started. I would say almost this might be negative. I would say we all need to relax because the offensive line, I don't think, can be fixed in one offseason.
No, it can't.
The way that it's been basically ignored for the better part of a decade, right? And
all we've done here is replace Matt Khalil.
correct.
So to me, that just brings us back to even. They need at least 2 or 3 more moves.
And that's hard to do in one offseason.
Very
So
hard.
I think we should stop freaking out about it.
And by the way, they wanted, I never know how to pronounce his name,
Russell Okung.
They wanted him even apparently after they signed Reef,
That
which
makes
is
sense.
indicative of they know it deep down. And if
Finally.
they didn't get him, that tells me they're way short on the line, offensive line. Offensive line is worse than the Twins' pitching rotation.
Which is amazing.
And that says something.
Okay, let's
We don't
leave
have
it there.
Irvin Santana.
Yeah, that's true.
Sticking with the Vikings, linebacker Chad Greenway announced his retirement this week, ending his 11-year career. The Vikings were the only team he played for, and he was able to step away on his own terms. Listen.
This is my final goal that I'll accomplish in the NFL. Probably my final goal that I'll, achieve as a player was to be able to go out and retire on my own terms, doing it my way. And
Just like old Blue Eyes himself, Greenway did it his way, really from start to finish, guys.
Well, I hope there's not going to be an edit necessary or an update next week on this story. Because is there any chance that Chad Greenway, after learning that a mediocre, well, now I call him a journeyman, hadn't been around to be a journeyman, quarterback named Mike Glennon,
Going to the Bears?
was signed to the Bears to a contract worth, I think, $15 million a year. Now, not all that's guaranteed. But once he sees those numbers they're thrown out there, it's the old deal of will he go far on the bit and want to reconsider. Now,
Just take another couple mil.
plays another position. But yeah, good run. Obviously, he's not a Pro Football Hall of Fame player.
No.
He's borderline, I think. Do we have a Hall of Fame?
We have a
What do
Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor. That's what we
Yes.
have. I think borderline there. But in his prime, not a good player. I think a very good player on some pretty good defenses.
Definitely.
And obviously didn't get to the bowl, but had an extremely good run.
Pro Bowler a couple of times, All-Pro a couple of times, led the team in tackles a bunch of times, is basically second in all important linebacker categories behind Scott Studwell, who's in the Ring of Honor. So he's right there. Let's put it this way. If the Vikings got out of all of their first-round draft picks the last decade, what they got out of Chad Greenway,
They'd be pleased.
they'd be pretty happy, right? Given what else they've gotten. What's that?
You remember Greenway's one indiscretion?
His one indiscretion.
Yeah, which
Yes.
tells you something in of
I
itself.
do actually. It's
When
about drinking, right?
He basically wanted everybody to get as drunk as possible. It
Yeah.
was for a big prime time game against the
Packers
to get in the playoffs,
Yes,
I think.
and he told everybody to get liquored up.
Everybody get liquored up, and of course, immediately he got pounded by Pitchfork Nation.
Yes.
What a horrible example. Like, he was basically telling everybody to drive drunk.
Right.
Which is really not what he was saying.
No.
I don't think he was being all that literal. And if that's your only indiscretion,
You
so
never had to
speak,
worry about him.
then that's a guy that you basically knew was just going to come to work and do his job.
Checked every box for what you want. A first-round pick, first of all. Local angle, kind of, right?
Sort of,
because he's
yeah.
from South Dakota.
That's-
But
we
it's
kind of-
Vikings country. We
we
grandfather
grandfathered
the
them in.
Dakotas and a little bit of Iowa
Yeah.
and some of Nebraska and even some of Wisconsin, just over on this side.
Well, in fact, right, isn't Riley Reef front? We got another Dakota guy, South Dakota
And
guy.
he went to the University of Iowa.
There you
so
go.
we replaced Matt Khalil on the offensive line. We
Yeah.
replaced our South Dakota and Iowa deal right there as well.
We should point out, as much as we've been talking about the Vikings offense and what they're going to do at running back, is if you don't bring Peterson back, you got to get somebody else, and you got all kinds of line issues, and you really have a wide receiver issue too, I think, to a degree.
Other than that,
how's the play? But defensively, we still got some work to tighten up things.
Yes.
And now Greenway's role was being diminished, but we still got some issues defensively that need to be addressed.
secondary for sure. We don't know if Captain Munnerland's coming back. We don't
Right.
know if Terrence Newman's going to retire.
We need
don't-
another
We need a
lineman
safety
up front.
still. We need a lineman up front.
Coming up next on Enough Said.
I'm wondering what time your apology is
To who?
Norwood T.
I'm glad
much
you,
maligned.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And in many cases, he brought it on himself.
Yes.
The president's entire point is that the people deserve to know. So why not include in the existing investigations into Russia this aspect, that whether or not this actually happened?
Counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway defending President Trump's claims that former President Obama wiretapped his phones during the campaign. Now, President Trump did not offer any evidence to support his claim. Conway later said the president has information and intelligence that the rest of us do not have. Guys, let's ask the obvious question here. Do we actually believe this really happened?
No, I don't. Well, we don't have any evidence. In fact, I saw a couple of interesting stories from people quoting White House sources as admitting that he didn't really know. He doesn't really know. He has some suspicions on the basis of some media reports. What we're learning, I mean, this is the first real TV president where his tweets are largely based on what he has seen.
What he's consuming.
And what he is consuming.
That day, you're right.
For better, in some cases for worse, as we found out regarding those who were released from Gitmo.
Yeah.
Most of those who were released are now terrorists again, were released under the Bush administration.
Yeah.
A detail that Trump didn't bother with because it didn't serve his purpose.
Or the attacks in Sweden from a couple of weeks ago that really weren't attacks at all. He tweets off of what he consumes, but it appears he consumes like a lot of us do our media. While you're eating your breakfast, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're playing with your kids, you're not really getting all the details,
and then gets the phone out and starts tweeting.
It's strange.
You know, what's weird here is, you know, in the wake of that allegation, his tweet, James Clapper, who I think was Obama's last national intelligence guy, he comes on, and if you want to believe him, and not everybody does, but he says two things. One, he says, I've got no evidence that there were any FISA warrants or any wiretapping going on. But he said, we didn't have any evidence of any collusion. So in an odd sort of way, Trump lucks out on at least half. He looks bad on the front end regarding the wiretapping allegation, a pretty dangerous charge to throw out there as recklessly as he did. But if you want to believe Clapper, he gets vindicated on the larger question. And I got to say, as much smoke as there's been and as much question as all of us have about why are people lying about
the Russia thing,
lying about visiting with the Russians.
Right, and yes.
We have no evidence on the basis of all media outlets that there's any real collusion. And in fact, the policies in place have not been changed dramatically. They're not that different from the president's. In fact, in some ways, they think they may be a little bit harder. So I'm going to back away from the hyperventilation on whether, until we actually have evidence that whatever these meetings were about led to something where there's some evidence of collusion. Is that being too...
No, it's not.
I think it's time we do that.
It is annoying, though, that people are lying about the meetings even taking place.
Which is curious, and that's what lends to suspicion.
100% that's why. But you've talked to people on the radio that said there's a lot of reasons why people in his administration should be talking to people from Russia, whatever it is. You know, so the fact that the conversations happen, that in of itself is not a big deal. But it is distracting from stock market being high,
through the roof.
Jobs report was good.
More jobs report through the roof.
No one knows what's going on with healthcare because it's just getting rammed.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. From calls to be fired to Big Ten Coach of the Year, Richard Pitino has turned this team around. Take a listen.
You know, there was so much talk about I should be fired and all those things that we just kind of put our head down and worked and believed in what we were doing and believed that we broke through. So I'm happy with the way we persevered through it.
Guys, the Gophers are a 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. They are a lock to make the NCAA tournament. Dan, are we comfortable saying Pitino is the man for the long-term job, or is this season just kind of a fluke?
Well, I think there's reason to lean to the former. That something is going on here because it's not a senior-laden club. They have made a huge reversal. So he's presided over one of the worst teams in Gopher basketball history. And now one of the greatest, I guess you could say, recoveries in Gopher basketball history, legally as far as we know right now, which is not casting aspersions on him so much as
just the university generally,
of Minnesota,
historically.
When we've done well in basketball, usually another shoe has dropped at some point.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what time your apology is to
who?
Norwood Teague.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And in many cases, he brought it on himself.
Yes.
Norwood Teague. This might end up being one place where he can say, hey, I wasn't counting on hiring him at the start of my process.
Right.
I might have gotten some help from Billy Donovan, who recommended him.
He did.
But the bottom line is I hired him, and that does look pretty good right now on the basis of what they are now, how young they are, and how there's no reason to believe they should fall off the end of the table in the wrong direction next season.
It's funny that you bring up the Norwood angle. I've been waiting. I don't know when I thought that was appropriate to bring up, but I think now that they're about ready for the tournament, it's worth mentioning because he and Mike Ellis hired him. he and Mike Ellis also maybe got leveraged when they didn't need to give him the extra $400,000 or whatever. And they took a lot of heat for that, but their point through that whole thing was, we like him. We think he's recruiting pretty well. And by the way, we got to 11 coaches, we think, before we found Richard Pitino last time around. So let's try to keep him this time. So they do deserve some credit for it. And last year it didn't look very good. And one thing I've always liked about Pitino is I do think he's fairly self-aware. I don't think he's as self-important as every other Big Ten coach that we know. And I do think
that's saying something.
Well, I know it's a big bridge there. But I'm just saying, I think he handled last year being terrible and his response through the whole thing pretty well.
Very well.
And
no,
said,
I'll double down on that.
I don't blame anybody for hating us. I understand why, I just wanted to get.
No matter what he thought privately,
yes,
if it bugged him more,
publicly he's been good.
He figured out, I ain't going to win because I got nothing. I don't have enough equity to pound my fist and say you guys are overreacting. And so he handled that part of it. I agree with you 100%.
And he's always said, we just want to get out there and play. He goes, I think that I like my team. I think I have good pieces, or we have good pieces now, but no one cares what I think. We got to go play.
It sounds like you're setting up another contract extension. I mean, honestly, can we let it play out a little longer, or if
how long is his contract now?
Isn't it? It was already extended several years.
It was
right?
extended like 1 or 2 years with extra money. Well, you know what's going to happen.
Put a statue up yet.
No, you don't.
But he'll be leaving soon.
But it's nice to have this kind of borrowed time season where now you can look forward. There's going to be excitement going into next year. They'll probably be ranked in the preseason top 25.
Allegedly.
We think they've got a good guard coming in, so it should be fun.
Let's move on. I'm going to try and sell you guys something. Tell me if you'd be interested. For the low price of $99, you could attend every Twins home game in April and May. But here's the catch. It doesn't include opening day, and you don't actually get a seat. Justin, are you buying?
You had me until you said Twins baseball. Then I was out. You had me at low price. You had me at $99. Twins baseball, no. I actually do think this is a good idea. I am confused, though. I don't know how many of these they're going to sell. I have no idea what the market is for something like this. But include the opening day. I know it's a small quibble, but just get as many people in there as you can. How much room is there
to stand? I mean, maybe that's part of the issue.
There's plenty of room to stand at Target Field. We got all the plazas, all the concourses. I get why they're doing it. They're not the only team that's doing it. I know you're a little bit more bitter on it than I am.
Well, I'm not.
If I was 24 and lived downtown, I'd do it.
I'm so.
You're just worn down by the Twins.
On the Twins, they're so irrelevant that it's hard for me to work up a rage. I understand why they're doing it. I guess I am old school enough to say, we know you're acknowledging the obvious, but do you have to do it quite this baldly? And it's almost like we know the baseball's irrelevant, but do you need to underline it by doing this? Because that's what you're doing. Now, the question I have for you as a bar hopper, or back in the day, is are the months of April and May, weather-wise, good enough ordinarily to make this the floating or the sort of moving bar that people expect that it might be? I mean, is that going to be that exciting? If it's 52 degrees,
people probably aren't going to be. No,
I don't think it's going to be this cool outdoor thing for all the youngsters to hang
out.
But
it is another option. It's another place to go in that North Loop area. There's bars all over the place, so you could find it, and it's a $3 cover if you go to all 30 games.
What I like to see as a social experiment is we implant some, or just I guess put a camera on some of those folks who do this to find out if we can measure how often they actually look at the action on the field.
Oh, we can find that out.
If they ever look at the action. Is it like 5%? Is it 80%? My guess it's closer to 5% than 80%.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. Some good teams coming through, though. Boston's coming through at some point. I think that's in May. So I think it's a good idea. Why not? Give it a shot. You got to try something, right?
They are, because the season ticket base is way down. I mean, it's
about half of what it was. 2009 or 10, whenever the stadium opened, 24.5 was the season ticket base.
Yeah.
It's now like 12, maybe. I mean, it's 50% from what it was.
Which also tells you that as beautiful as the stadium is, even that allure is no longer enough. People have said, I gotta convince myself that occasionally I can look down on the field, not just go get another plate of nachos. I gotta see something rather than the pitcher's head, going back in the wrong direction because another ball's hit.
The only time you need to pay attention.
Time for lightning round. Republicans releasing their own health care plan, which smells and even tastes a little bit like Obamacare. One big difference: Americans would not be forced to get health coverage. Guys, can Republicans get this passed?
Well, it doesn't appear on the basis of what we know about it now. No, now it could change a lot. I mean, I guess you give them some credit for coming up with a plan that has lefties bitter and righties bitter.
Universally bitter, almost.
And is there somewhere in between? I'm not going to lie to you and pretend I understand all of this. I know, I'll just talk about it politically. they got to get this right, because as much as there was dissatisfaction with some aspects of Obamacare, you got to get it right, or it suddenly becomes the thing you own, no longer that the Democrats own, and that's why all the pressure's on them to figure out something that'll work.
Okay, let's move on. The son of former vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine arrested in St. Paul, Linwood Kaine, and 3 others suspected of lighting a smoke bomb inside the Capitol, trying to disrupt a pro-Donald Trump rally.
Never a good idea, right? I mean, you would think.
So daring.
Well,
he's being so daring.
I know we've had examples, including in this state, of kids of politicians getting into trouble and doing things in places they're not supposed to. But really, I mean, this is where we are, where you're going to light. It's ridiculous.
It's
stupid is the word for it. There's only one word for it. Stupid.
And I hope there's a legal, whether he's famous or not. I hope
anybody that does
there's a legal ramification to doing it.
Yeah.
You know?
But you think you'd know better when you have a parent
he's
in
one
politics.
of us, by the way. He lives here.
I guess he does.
I think he might have been.
Well, do we have to claim him?
I think we do.
I mean, we have other people capable of this,
That's
but
true.
Okay.
Disappointing.
The Wild have lost 2 in a row now, and former head coach Mike Yeo had his revenge. He returned to the X, and his Blues beat the Wild. Guys, this is a team the Wild could face in the first round of the playoffs. Should we be concerned?
Well, if they make the playoffs,
he's in the panic mode.
Oh, well, there's
like everybody else. We've lost. We've had a little bit of a tough stretch.
Yeah.
And everybody's ready to basically write off the rest of the season. That is how volatile it always is here with Minnesota sports fans.
I call it fragile Minnesota fans.
Yeah.
We came up with a term for it. After the Chicago game at the X, where the Wild lost, people were it was complete panic mode. Now, 2 weeks later, same thing. I mean, Ryan talks about first-round playoff. Will we even make the postseason at this point?
I mean, I'm always in panic mode. I'm a Minnesota sports fan. So
that's true.
Moving on,
You're born that way.
That's it. You can't help yourself.
It's not a choice.
Hollywood's latest couple, People magazine reporting Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez dating? Can we call him J-Rod?
Oh, I like J-Rod. That's terrific. You're filling in for Lori Fisher very well, by the way, for
she
going
loves
right.
These kind of
yeah,
stories.
this was definitely
it's Well, that's what I'm wondering if Jeets now has second thoughts
Megan Davis
about getting married.
Or Hannah Davis.
Whatever, DirecTV woman.
Yep, Hannah Davis.
Do you think he has second thoughts? Because they've always had this sort of quiet rivalry.
This rivalry, yeah.
But, as far as we know, Jeets never cheated. Well, Jeets has not been married till now. So you think he's
he's about to be a dad.
Or maybe he already dated.
Good work,
Senator Al Franken hosting a hot dish competition for the Minnesota delegation. Congressman Colin Peterson won with his right to bear arms hot dish made from bear meat. Justin, would you try this?
I would try it because I didn't even know bear meat was a real thing.
Is that legal?
That's
is
a
it
great
legal
question.
to eat bear meat?
I don't know. Is it legal
to get in trouble with PETA? Or?
Well, it's not us. It's them.
Yeah, that's
we don't
true.
have to worry about it.
I
would try it because I didn't even know you could eat bear. That shows you what an outdoorsman I am.
What's it taste like? Does it taste like chicken?
I'm guessing it tastes like venison. It seems like it would taste like venison.
Is it real gamey?
I don't know.
What goes with hot dish? Starburst candy. The candy will now come in bags filled with only pink Starburst. Apparently, that's everyone's favorite. I like orange. I don't know about you guys.
Orange is strange. There's one answer to this. It's red. Red is the best Starburst
There's
color.
no answer.
No, red is the best.
This is the stupidest discussion and debate ever.
No.
I heard the two of you before the show.
It was highly
break
contested.
This down analytically, and I'm going.
It's red.
It's a piece of candy.
Red, yellow, orange, pink in that order. The fact that they're isolating pink.